As human beings, we all understand the importance and value of community. Whether this manifests in the confines of family, the workplace, friends, or religion, community is sacred and it helps us feel like we are a part of something. Hi, my name is Mason and I am a part of the LGBTQ plus community. The letter T in that acronym stands for transgender. And although I am not a trans individual myself, I feel protective of these members of my community, just as someone would if their family member or loved ones were being ridiculed or discriminated against. With transgender rights being at the forefront of many political conversations, I'm asking Congress to pass legislation to protect transgender rights, as well as to preserve the right to perform drag and other forms of gender expression. Spikes in anti-trans and anti-genderqueer bill proposals and legislation is a serious problem that is continuing to get worse. 2023 is a record-breaking year for anti-trans legislation, and it is only August. According to translegislation.com, there have been 560 bills across 49 states proposed that fall under the denomination of anti-trans legislation. This involves drag, gender expression, and the trans healthcare and gender-affirming care that many individuals need. 79 of these bills have been passed, 352 are active, and 129 have failed thus far. The sheer volume of anti-trans bills is extremely disproportionate to the amount of trans individuals in our country. According to Williams Institute of Law at UCLA, only 1.6 million people ages 13 and up identify as transgender in the United States. With over 330 million people in our country, these attacks seem targeted. And after researching this topic, I believe this to be true. Anti-trans and anti-drag ideologies are directly linked in the legislative attacks that are currently happening. For those of us that do not know, according to Macmillan from PBS.org, drag is the art of dressing and acting exaggeratively as another gender, usually for entertainment such as comedy, singing, dancing, lip syncing, or all the above. If drag was not linked to the gay community, it might not be under as much scrutiny. According to Jonathan Hamlet, if drag wasn't rooted in gay culture and rooted in queer community, I don't think it'd be up for debate. Nobody's banning clowns, nobody's banning miming. This is nothing new. It's just the 2023 trending version of what homophobia and transphobia looks like. What is even scarier is the dangerous overlap between drag and transgenderism in the media. Ambiguity in legislation poses a threat to anyone who is non-conforming to gender roles and traditional representation. This transcends trans individuals and people that participate in drag. In March of this year, drag queen Ben de la Creme, a personal favorite of mine, spoke on the anti-drag bill that is being proposed in Tennessee. She states that these bills are terrifying because the language is so open-ended. A lot of these people don't understand what drag is, and it's all coded language as an attack on the LGBTQ plus community. The wording on this bill is classifying drag as adult entertainment and not being able to do it in a range where a minor could see it. This means that there will be no more pride parades, no pride events, and if the window is visible from the sidewalk at a drag bar or drag brunch even, there could be a potential issue if there's a child watching. The bill defines as adult entertainment as men or women doing male or female impersonation. That within itself is dangerous because who is interpreting these forms of impersonation? By this definition, although we know that trans women are women and trans men are men, this bill can be interpreted in a number of ways. If a trans person is walking down the street in public, for example, and I decide that they're a male or female impersonator in front of a child, that becomes a dangerous element to consider. Trixie Mattel, another world-renowned drag queen, chimed in on these Tennessee bills and said that right now in Tennessee, I can get a gun, carry it around in public, but I can't put on a wig. On my second offense of doing drag in Tennessee, I would become a felon. One of the main reasons that trans and genderqueer communities have been targeted is because of the debate that drag queens pose a threat to children. Tennessee State Senator Jack Johnson chimes in on the gender bills being proposed and mentions that this bill is not anti-drag, it is pro-child. I'm carrying the legislation to protect children from being exposed to sexually explicit drag shows that are inappropriate for minor audiences. This idea is harmful, of course, because it perpetuates the idea that drag is synonymous with sexualization and crude behavior. However, it's simply not the case. Shangela, a famous drag queen, states that you can't characterize the world of drag by one particular type of show, the same way that you can't characterize the myriad of shows on television by one particular channel. There are many threats currently contributing to the unsafety of children in America, but drag queens are not part of those threats. In an interview with Oklahoma State Senator Nathan Dahm, the interviewer asked Dahm how many children have been killed or harmed at drag queen shows. For the record, no child has ever been gunned down by a drag queen. The Oklahoma senator replied with none. If there was a threat to children, it would be gun control in the country. According to CDC, guns are the leading cause of death for children and teens since surpassing car accidents in 2021. Drag queens and transgender individuals have never been a threat. To finish off, attorney Stacey Eads says that out of the hundreds of sexual abuse cases that she personally has prosecuted, not a single one saw a minor groomed or assaulted at a drag show, or groomed through an LGBTQ advocacy group. Meanwhile, more than 6,000 Catholic clergy members have been credibly accused of child sexual abuse in the United States, according to AbleAbuseLawsuit.com. The attention and focus needs to be on the actual threats to children, not those expressing their autonomy and their authenticity within the confines of gender. And so I ask Congress to consider passing one of the 24 different acts that the Human Rights Campaign is currently lobbying to implement. Whether it be the Customer Non-Discrimination Act, which would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit discrimination based off of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in public accommodations. Or the Do No Harm Act, which clarifies that the currently implemented Religious Freedom Restoration Act is intended to only protect religious freedom without allowing the infliction or infringement on harm on other people. Or, another favorite of mine, the Equality Act, which would provide consistent and explicit non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ+ people across key areas of life, including employment, housing, credit, education, public services, and other governmental services. I would also urge Congress to repeal the currently active bills that are discriminating and hurting the trans and genderqueer communities. There's a lot of advocacy that needs to be done for trans and genderqueer individuals alike, and Congress needs to implement these protective acts for the sake of the LGBTQ+ community's safety and well-being. Thank you.